Hello, everyone, and welcome to Delivering on Our Promise, a reception to benefit the National Veterans Legal Services Program. I'm Amy Hsu, and I currently serve as Executive Director at Merck & Company, and I report to Mike Holston, who chaired our fundraising efforts for the reception this year, but unfortunately he's not able to be with us tonight due to a family emergency. I know that for Mike and for me, this event is very special. I've served on the board for NVLSP for several years, and this event is critical to our support for our veterans. Now in its 7th year, the reception supports the important work of NVLSP. The program helps military service members and veterans who are injured or disabled while serving our country obtain the benefits they've earned. Since 1980, this program has been the leading legal advocate for our nation's veterans and service members. As a company, Merck has made a commitment to hire veterans and support their transition back from war and into civilian life. We have an internal network just for vets, known as the Veterans Roundtable, and policies that support our employees who served in the National Guard and Reserves. Military Times named Merck a Best for Vets Employer of the Year. And we're part of the national effort to hire 100,000 vets before 2020. I'm also proud to say, like many of the companies here, we're part of the Lawyers Serving Warriors program. And our employees are taking on cases to help veterans seeking disability benefits. That's a relationship that's carried over from both Mike and my years at HP, where we launched this program as our signature program at HP. Mark and I are proud to support this reception and the very important work of NVLSP. Earlier this month, while representing a client, Mike and I and Christine Canalitas, who's in the audience somewhere, were speaking with a veteran who's seeking combat-related special compensation. It's apparent that she, like many other vets in her situation, need an advocate. We cannot do enough to support our men and women who serve the nation through the military. Now, it's my pleasure to announce former CNN and ABC anchor and correspondent Jeanne Meserve. Jeanne has traveled the globe covering the news. You remember her reporting from Hurricane Katrina and her many stories on homeland security. She's a senior fellow at the George Washington University Center for Cyber and Homeland Security and a member of the Aspen Institute Homeland Security Advisory Committee. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming our emcee, Jeanne Meserve, to the podium.
Thank you so much, Amy, for that kind introduction and for all you do to support this program. Please, round of applause for Amy. I am honored to be here tonight to recognize the important work of the National Veterans Legal Services Program. Our military men and women take an oath to defend and protect this country and even give their lives. And the importance of the protection they give us was brought home clearly to us this week with the attacks overseas that have taken so many innocent lives. We depend on our military to keep us safe, to help us in major disasters, and to rescue people in harm's way. As a nation, we make a promise in return to our service members and to their families that should they become disabled or injured because of their service, their country will take care of them. This promise was first articulated by Abraham Lincoln in his second inaugural address. The promise is simply this: to care for him who shall have borne the battle, and for his widow, and for his orphan. This promise is the motto of the Department of Veterans Affairs. But far too many veterans, our country has failed to keep this sacred promise. You've seen the headlines, you know about the VA scandal, the claims backlog, and the thousands of veterans who are waiting for their veterans. This organization, the National Veterans Legal Services Program, offers hope. It helps veterans who have been wrongfully denied their benefits. It fights for justice on their behalf and empowers others to do the same. This organization and its partners are keeping the great promise this nation has made. They ensure that this promise is delivered to those who serve in our armed forces. And now it's time to recognize some of those keepers of the promise who are here with us tonight, the staff and lawyers who do so much every day for our veterans and their families. First, attorneys Bart Stichman and Ron Abrams, the joint executive directors of NVLSP, are here with us tonight. Bart and Ron, would you please stand up for us? Co-founded NVLSP in 1980. He remains a mighty legal advocate for our veterans. In 1989, Ron left the VA to join NVLSP because he wanted to reform the system. His commitment to veterans, in combination with his considerable knowledge of the VA, has enabled NVLSP to successfully train thousands of veteran advocates. Thank you, Bart and Ron, for all that you do. Thank you. And now I'd like to ask the hardworking lawyers and staff at NVLSP to join them and stand. Thank you all for all you do every day to help move this cause forward. You do not go unrecognized. Please accept a round of applause from all of us. Thank you also to Tim Garrity, my former colleague at CNN, who has volunteered to film this event for free. Tim's a great guy, and I can testify he's an absolutely great photographer. Tim, great to read. And now, would all of the attorneys from law firms who donate their time to assist NVLSP please stand to be recognized? Thanks to all of you for donating your legal expertise to help our nation's veterans, our service members, and their families. Your work really does make a difference. Thank you all so much. And now I'd like to ask members of the NVLSP Board of Directors to stand up. One by one, we're going to get everybody in this room on their feet, I'm sure. Okay. Dedicated board to steer an organization like this one. The board provides key guidance and support. So again, thank you for all that you do. No gathering like this, of course, would be complete if we did not recognize our service members, veterans and their families who sacrifice and support the freedoms that all of us enjoy. If you are a veteran of our armed services, if you are serving in the military, have a loved one currently serving, or have lost someone in your family in military service to America, again, let me ask you to please stand up and accept our applause. We are so grateful for your service to our country. And now let's learn more about the work of the National Veterans Legal Services Program. Let's roll the videotape.
More than 3.5 million American military veterans come home from war with disabilities. Far too many of those veterans are still fighting to receive the disability benefits our country promised them. Receiving benefits for the physical and mental injuries associated with military service is a battle our American veterans and service members should not have to fight alone. So many of our veterans get caught in the system. In too many cases, their claims are improperly denied. Challenging the VA and the military on benefits decisions can be daunting and costly. But with the right legal assistance, veterans have a shot at breaking through the complex system. When the Board of Veterans' Appeals reviews VA benefit denials, 75% are granted or sent back to the VA to correct errors. When veterans are represented by a lawyer before the Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims, 70% of them win. NVLSP leverages its expertise and resources to improve the lives of thousands of veterans by providing legal representation to veterans caught in the system. Through landmark class action litigation, NVLSP has won benefits for hundreds of thousands of veterans. We win 9 out of every 10 cases before the Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims. And through our Lawyers Serving Warriors program, we have partnered with law firms and corporate legal departments to place the cases of hundreds of veterans with attorneys each year. Our commitment to veterans advocacy and our impact on the lives of veterans nationwide is enhanced and leveraged by the publications and training manuals we create to equip lawyers across the country to use their expertise to assist our veterans. Our treatise on veterans law is used by thousands of veterans advocates nationwide. NVLSP's reach is amplified by our work with other organizations to train lawyers and advocates. We also train hundreds of attorneys and advocates in specific skill sets through monthly webinars. NVLSP uses all of these training programs as a force multiplier to reach more veterans across the country. NVLSP and our veterans rely on the support of the legal community to further our mission. Every day, we work to ensure veterans are not wrongfully denied the disability benefits they have earned through their service to our country. Since our founding 35 years ago, we have helped over 150,000 veterans access more than $4.5 billion of disability benefits. And we are continuing to undertake new initiatives, such as the Military Sexual Trauma Program and the Veterans Mental Health Network to meet the changing needs of our veterans. NVLSP can change the lives of the men and women who fought for our country. Your support allows us to further our mission to make a difference for our veterans.
A great film about a great organization made possible by all of you. And now we enter the awards. The first award tonight is the NVLSP Lifetime Achievement Award. Bart Stitchman will announce the honoree. Bart, come on up.
Thank you. It is my honor to present NVLSP's first Lifetime Achievement Award to a true pioneer in transforming the legal rights of veterans, David Addlestone. David's pioneering began after he finished serving in the Judge Advocate General in the as a Judge Advocate General in the Air Force in the 1960s. In 1970, he, his wife Irene, and his infant son Benjamin all went to Vietnam, where David served as a civilian lawyer in that war zone, defending soldiers, Marines, airmen, against whom courts-martials or administrative discharge proceedings were brought. In 1972, upon returning to the States, David took up the cause of the 600,000 Vietnam veterans who had been issued less than honorable discharges, a stigma that sentenced them to a lifetime of underemployment and often deprived them of VA benefits and medical care. David led a nationwide effort to train attorneys to represent these veterans on applications to obtain an upgrade from military discharge boards. He became the preeminent authority in this area of law, co-authoring the nation's only treatise in military discharge upgrading. David pioneered by writing self-help materials, The Rights of Veterans and the Vietnam Veteran Survival Guide, and by litigating. He represented Technical Sergeant Leonard Matlovich in a 1975 federal court challenge to the Air Force policy to discharge airmen on the ground that they were homosexual. After Matlovich appeared on the cover of Time magazine, the Air Force acted to shield its policy from judicial scrutiny by offering Matlovich a huge sum of money to settle the case. Then, in 1980, David founded NVLSP. Soon thereafter, he partnered with another new organization, Vietnam Veterans of America, to tackle another major injustice: the long-standing statutes that barred veterans from paying a lawyer more than $10 to represent them on a VA benefits claim, and that barred these same veterans from appealing a VA denial of benefits to a court. Getting Congress to repeal these anachronistic laws proved to be a 10-year David against Goliath battle, if you'll pardon the pun, because major veteran service organizations lobbied hard against repeal. Finally, in 1988, Congress created a new court, the Court of Appeals for Veterans Claims, to hear appeals from veterans who had been denied VA benefits. When 80% of the veterans who appealed to the new court could not find a lawyer to represent them, David was able to partner with the American Legion, Disabled American Veterans, and Paralyzed Veterans of America to obtain a federal grant to operate a pro bono program in which NVLSP recruited and trained thousands of private attorneys to represent veterans before the court, a program now in its 23rd year. You need to understand that during all this time, David also served as a one-man development staff, raising money year in and year out from veteran service organizations and private foundations, convincing the Legal Services Corporation to fund NVLSP as a national legal support center in veterans law, and persuading District Judge Jack Weinstein to make NVLSP the largest grantee using funds from the Agent Orange class action settlement between Vietnam veterans and the chemical company manufacturers of that toxic herbicide. That multi-year grant ended up funding NVLSP's successful class action, challenging the VA's Agent Orange compensation rules, which resulted in billions of dollars in retroactive benefits for Vietnam veterans and their families. Time does not permit me to cover all of David's accomplishments, but I would be remiss if I did not mention one other great talent possessed by this pioneer in veterans law: the ability to attract and hire other highly effective attorneys, as evidenced by David's decision to hire me in 1975 and Ron Abrams in 1989. I couldn't resist. To this unique pioneer in veterans law, we present NVLSP's first Lifetime Achievement Award. Ron, will you help me? Mr. Addlestone?
I don't know who that guy with the red hair was. Bart's a nice man. He gave me credit for a lot of things that he did, and I appreciate that. But the Agent Orange case was all his and Sidney and Austin's. I'm a bit rusty, so I got to use notes. But I'm use the old-time clock to clock myself. Sometime after you're age 35, you wake up one morning and you're in the fourth quarter, and that's where I am. So this occasion made me think back over almost 50 years of practice of law, and I had some extraordinary clients. Bart mentioned one of them at least. And I suppose someone getting an award like this is expected to pass something on that he's learned. And I've got a room full of lawyers here that I'm sure are much better than I am. But Bart stole my line. Bart and I got married in 1975. And we adopted Ron in 1989. And
I grew.
Ron was a pariah at when he worked at the VA. he did bad things like testify how the system actually worked, and he refused to commit perjury. For that, he got placed in a closet for an office with a swastika on the desk, and then transferred to Interpol, where he sat on the desk and did nothing. Both of these extraordinary lawyers prove my first premise of hire competent people, keep them close to you. I mean, that's fairly obvious, but Bart is a formidable litigator. I can only remember 2 cases he lost, and those were long shots. That's in 40 years. And Ron knows more about how the VA actually works than anybody else in the world. He stayed way ahead of them. Now, I was thinking about something else to pass on, but what I'd like to do is suggest a dialogue about a topic that is probably not going to come about, but I think it's worth talking about. And I need to tell you a personal story, how I accidentally became a lawyer. I fully intended on staying in college as long as possible. I was going to get a PhD in history, preferably in a European university. And my father, having been an academic, suggested that's not a wise course. And since he was paying for law school, I went to law school. He thought it'd be useful to have a backup trade. I didn't take it seriously, so I took great courses like admiralty, international law, world law, if you can believe that. And I was contemplating, my wife and I were contemplating pursuing my fantasy of going to Europe and studying somewhere. However, this was the fall of 1965. And as I was being sworn into the bar, I stopped by my local draft board and asked them where I stood. And they said, number 1. I quickly activated an application to the Air Force to be a judge advocate. And in effect, I was a draftee. Luckily, one of the courses I took in law school was military law. That was another gut seminar. And back in those days, there was no JAG school, no training. You sat as counsel on a couple of guilty plea cases, and then they threw you into the courtroom. And for those who've had military experience, back in those days, special court marshals did not have law officers, what they're calling now judges. The senior member ruled on motions. And in the other branches of the service, lawyers were not even provided in some cases. But I enjoyed it. I discovered you could really help people by being a lawyer. Forgive me, I got bad vocal cords. I defended and, well, actually I was prosecuting a case and I lost it. That's how I became a defense lawyer. It's sort of, I think that's very typical, and I probably do the same thing if I was a staff judge advocate. I defended courts of martial and administrative discharge boards. The administrative discharge boards, I noticed, had this strange notion that if somebody had been acquitted by a court martial, they could still be discharged for what was then called an undesirable discharge. And I stumbled across some federal court case law, filed all this away in my mind, maybe something to do in the future. I was then put in charge of processing all of the administrative discharges. And I just made notes to myself of how many violations could be violated. And that would result in a federal court overturning a court-martial conviction. Well, the point of this story is how a civilian-oriented person became a draftee and really got something out of it. And I say civilian-oriented, that was a phrase my my staff judge advocate made in my exit interview, why, Captain Addlestone, are you leaving the Air Force? And I told him, I wouldn't lie to him, so I said, I opposed the war in Vietnam. And he said, can I just say Captain Addlestone is civilian oriented? And I said, certainly. That cost me a commendation medal, but it was worth it. I have probably talked to 10,000 active duty service members and veterans over the course of 50 years. World War I, all the way to today, even a couple of veterans of the Spanish Civil War served in the Abraham Lincoln Brigade, which of course they don't get VA benefits. We are facing a continuing war, and the barbarians are not at the gate. They have crossed past the gate. So I think we need to think about who fights and who makes policy. What I say following this is not the position of NVLSP. This is my own personal suggestion. Let's start by remembering George Washington's admonition against a large standing army. And I think he was meant to also say a military class. We've certainly gotten away from that. Some believe, and I don't know whether it's true or not, that we currently have armed forces made up basically of economic draftees. It's been called a rich man's war and a poor man's fight. In any event, the armed forces do not represent our civilian population. This leads to further separation of the poles in this country. We become polarized and have a permanent military class. I question whether this is a good thing. And not that I'm afraid of them. I met people by being a draftee that I never were associated with. I came from the South, never had the opportunity to have African American friends, and within 6 months at my Air Force base, we were socializing with African Americans. The mixture of draftees there was much more reflective of the nature of our society. And we're losing that. If we had a conscription again, people would have the opportunity to meet people they would not meet in their normal daily work, and further leading to polarity in this country. Few families have skins in the game. I mean, I know a couple of families that had people serve in Iraq and Afghanistan, but not many more. Now, is it all volunteer force working? And this is somewhat controversial, but there have been some critics that have questioned it. Let me just give you a few facts. Everybody's familiar with the effects of multiple tours on the soldiers that served in Afghanistan and Iraq. Seemingly much more horrible experience than Vietnam, and leaving a human wreckage that is yet to be dealt with. The resignations and failure to re-enlist by company level officers and NCOs has something to say about what's going on. We have unheard of court-martial firings, demotions, and reprimands of generals and admirals. Never in our history have there been so many. No one has really put a story together about all of them. There have been at least 10 that I'm aware of. This is indicative of something, maybe toxic command. The court-martial rate currently is twice that of Vietnam-era veterans. The less than honorable discharge rate is twice that of Vietnam-era veterans. 22,000 Army veterans of combat in Iraq and Afghanistan have been discharged for misconduct with usually an other than honorable discharge, and have been, same time, been diagnosed with mental health issues. Clearly something's wrong. Who makes the policy? Well, Congress traditionally has had a large number of veterans. Usually, or in this 1970s, it was around 70%. It's less than 20 now. Hill staffers on Capitol Hill, less than 1% served in the military. Out of the 20 or so presidential candidates, assuming Jim Webb's not running, there's one that served in the military, and he was an Air Force judge advocate. It's food for thought. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say thank you to my soulmate of 52 years, Irene.
David, thank you for all your remarkable work, and thank you for this very nice watch that you left me. This is great. Let me deliver that back to you. And now, your bar mitzvah watch? Father's bar mitzvah watch. Wow. Now it's time to present our Corporate Leadership Award. This, as the name implies, honors corporations that show extraordinary leadership and commitment on behalf of our veterans by delivering exceptional employment, training, and advancement opportunities as they return to civilian life. GE has raised the bar with its comprehensive approach to helping veterans transition to new and promising careers. GE led the launch of the Get Skills to Work Coalition that recruits, trains, and places veterans in advanced manufacturing careers. GE's Transition Assistance Program helps veterans translate their military skills to meet corporate needs. And the company's Veterans Network offers resources to support veterans internally. This is remarkable. Right now, nearly 1 in every 13 US-based GE employees is a veteran. 1 in 13. This is a company that resolved to give back to those who put their jobs, lives, and families on the line for this country. Ron Flagg, chairman of the board of directors for the National Veterans Legal Services Program, is going to join me on this stage to present our award. Please join us in recognizing GE with the Corporate Leadership Award. The award will be accepted by Art Class.
Okay, great. So I can't believe I'm following David, so I don't know how you do that. But first, I'd like to thank the SNSVL. I'm sorry, it is so hard. The NVLSP for what it does to ensure that our veterans receive the benefits that they so dearly deserve. I'm a veteran. I served for 8 years, and then I was fortunate enough to move into the government and the FBI for 25 years. But the veterans have always been very close to my heart. So it's a privilege for General Electric to accept this award. I'm so proud of the GE program to support, hire, and develop our veterans across the United States. You know, it was about 4 years ago that General Electric committed to hiring 5,000 veterans in 5 years. And I'm proud to announce that at the end of this year, only 4 years in, we've hired those 5,000 veterans, and we're committed to continuing to hire veterans throughout General Electric. You know, our CEO's commitment and follow-through of the Veterans Hiring Program is consistent with a statement that JFK made years ago. He said, as we express our gratitude, we must never forget that the highest appreciation is not to utter words, but to live by them. And we're going to continue to do that. It's ironic, however, although I appreciate it, that we receive an award for what otherwise are actions that are directly in the best interest of our company and our country. We receive immense benefit from hiring veterans who bring great talent and leadership into General Electric, a company with 340,000 employees that operate in 175 countries around the world. So again, General Electric is proud to be standing here. I'm very proud to represent them, and thank you very much for this award.
Congratulations. Great. And now let's hear the stories of two veterans assisted this year by attorneys involved with the National Veterans Legal Services Program. Go to the videotape. And now powerful video, and one of the veterans who was featured in that film is here with us tonight, Army veteran Eric Adams. Would you please stand up so we can recognize you? Here you are. Thank you so much for your service to our country. Eric, of course, one of many veterans assisted by NVLSP's Lawyers Serving Warriors program. Our next award is the Pro Bono Partner Award, and this year it goes to Sidley Austin. Sidley's lawyers and staff devote more than 10,000 hours to pro bono projects every year. Sidley has participated in our Lawyers Serving Warriors program since it began back in 2007. Sidley Austin has been a leading partner in providing pro bono assistance to veterans, military service members, and to their families, representing them in more than 150 legal matters. Sidley has also partnered with NVLSP in several federal lawsuits seeking to secure the compensation that our nation's veterans have earned and are due by law. Please join me in recognizing Sidley Austin for its outstanding pro bono work for our nation's veterans. Emily Wexler. Here you are. Emily Wexler will be accepting the award on behalf of Sidley Austin.
Thank you very much.
Emily, thank you.
Thank you very much.
It's your award. Podium is yours.
Thank you very much. I am in our Chicago office, and my job is to coordinate Sidley's, what we call internally our Veterans Pro Bono, our Veterans Benefits Program. First of all, I should say thank you to Ron and Bart. Thank you to the board of NVLSP. Thank you to everyone from NVLSP for this award. I'm delighted to accept it on behalf of Sidley Austin. We consider ourselves lucky to work with you. I can say, again, on behalf of Sidley, thank you for entrusting us with your cases to help you accomplish your mission and to work together to help veterans. We consider it an honor. Thank you for, some of the cases date back to the 1980s that Sidley has done with NVLSP. So thank you for nearly 30 years of collaboration and professional development, and it's a long relationship. We look forward to it continuing in the future. A couple things I wanted to say are, Sidley is committed and for the long haul to assisting veterans. This can be seen in some large cases that we have done with NVLSP, class action cases, as well as many, many cases for individual veterans, just helping them navigate through the system, feel like they're not alone, that they have someone on their side to get a fair shake. We have also, the video talked about Lawyers Serving Warriors, another, perhaps the best reflection of Sidley's commitment as a firm long-term is when Lawyers Serving Warriors was created by NVLSP, Sidley said, we need to put someone in charge of this and make it a commitment for the long term, and that's where I came in. So it's been my delight to have that job. I was hired for one task and one task only, was to work on veterans cases and grow and develop. There were certainly veterans cases before me. I can't take the credit for starting it, but my mission has been to grow and develop the program since 2008. And it has been a delight. I want to close with one anecdote, which is I was recently on the telephone with a new client referred to us by NVLSP, and it was just the introductory phone call. Hello, my name is Emily Wexler. This is the process. We're going to send you an engagement letter. So we hadn't accomplished anything. Nothing had happened. And she was so happy that we were just talking on the phone, and she said repeatedly, I just feel so happy that I finally have a team and I'm not alone anymore. And that was really humbling because you know, it was just that someone cared about her was so meaningful to her. So she was happy to have us on her team, and which, you know, was, as I said, humbling. And I'd just like to say we're happy to be on NVLSP's team, and we look forward to continuing. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Our last award tonight is the Senator Daniel K. Inouye Award, an award NVLSP introduced to honor the legacy of a remarkable senator and a veteran who did so much for our country and for its service members. This year's honoree is Congressman Jeff Miller of Florida. He is well known for his fierce advocacy for our veterans and service members. Congressman Miller serves as chair of the House Veterans Affairs Committee. As the VA scandal has unfolded, Congressman Miller has played a key role in holding the VA accountable. Congressman Miller has also sponsored important legislation to improve the lives of veterans, including the Veterans Access, Choice, and Accountability Act and the Veterans Affairs Retaliation Prevention Act. Congressman Miller, would you please join me up here on this stage?
Thank you very much, Jeanne. It's a pleasure to be here with each of you tonight, especially with Bart and Ron. Every time they come in the office, they remind me of my favorite radio show, Click and Clack, the Tappet Brothers. And they're such great guys with this organization. I can't tell you how proud I am to have received an award that has Senator Inouye's name attached to it. What a great American, what a great warrior, a great senator. We miss him tremendously. But I'm here to say that MVLSP has been a staunch advocate, as you well know, over the years, and in fact, 3.5 decades now since you were first birthed. At the House Veterans Affairs Committee, we rely, as you know, on your counsel, your guidance, as we try to fix the claims and appeals process. I can always count on you coming in and helping us whenever we ask you to testify, because we know it's the unvarnished truth. I appreciate your hard work, the things that you do fighting to ensure that our veterans receive the benefits that they've earned. But the fact is that veterans shouldn't have to fight to get those benefits. Warriors who have fought all across the globe in places that many of us will never, ever go to, much less have ever heard the name of a country or a community. MVLSP is there helping those individuals. You know, you mentioned the crisis at VA. It's been 18 months since we uncovered the wait time crisis in Phoenix that we found was not just isolated to that one facility, but in fact, we found, and the Inspector General found, it was systemic across 110 different facilities. But I'm here tonight to tell you, in case you don't know, not a single senior executive has been fired or held accountable for what happened in Phoenix. 2 employees at the heart of the scandal remain on paid administrative leave. Others have been allowed to retire with their full retirement benefits in lieu of being fired, or simply transferred out of their current position to hide what I would call their malfeasance. As the department aims to recruit thousands of new mental health care specialists, This effort is likely being hindered by VA's current reputation for allowing behavior that, again, that I consider corrupt to go unpunished. This disturbing trend continues because current civil service rules make it extremely difficult for VA to hold people accountable. In fact, VA's top benefits executive admitted in a hearing a couple of weeks ago that it's virtually impossible to hold somebody accountable or to fire them if they can't or they won't do their job. No one can expect VA to become the winning team that we want them to be if they're not willing to cut the people who can't perform. And that's what we're dealing with at VA today. That's what Secretary McDonald, Deputy Secretary Gibson are having to deal with as they try to address VA's accountability problem. And to help that, I introduced a bill earlier this year that would give the VA another tool to be able to hold people accountable. And unfortunately, the VA has opposed this very simple change to the law. But we need to replace VA's culture of accountability or of complacency with one of accountability. We all know that most of the 330,000 employees at the Department of Veterans Affairs are there doing the right thing for the right reason. They're working hard every single day trying to make sure that veterans are served the way we as taxpayers would want them to be served. But my vision for the future is a VA that is defined by honesty, by transparency, and by accountability. When problems arise, VA has got to identify them. They have to work with Congress and the veteran service organizations that are there to help veterans. And when VA employees fall short of this threshold, the department has to move to hold them accountable. So I've pledged to the Secretary, as I pledge to all of you tonight, that we are going to do what it takes to get the job done, whatever it takes, just like you have done whatever it took to get the benefits for our veterans. I'm honored to accept the reward, recognizing what our committee, the House Committee on Veterans Affairs, has been able to accomplish with your support. It's a symbol of our continued cooperation and hard work to ensure that America's veterans receive the benefits that they've earned. I want to thank you for this award. I want to thank you for your continued support and for all you do for our veterans. But most important, to those of you that have worn the uniform of this nation, we owe you a debt that we can never repay. May God bless you and the United States of America. Thank you.
Congratulations to the Congressman. Everyone, it is because of your generosity and your support that this is possible. You provide what's needed for the National Veterans Legal Services Program to help our veterans, our service members, and their families. We are so grateful that you attended our reception tonight. When we adjourn in just a moment, I'd like to ask our award recipients to come up here with Ron and Bart to take a few photographs. To the rest of you, thank you so much and have a great evening.